Good morning again, everybody. Welcome back to day 3, I believe it is, of ISE 2019. Thank you for joining us on the main stage here in Hall 8. My name is Brad Grimes. I'm with AVIXA, the Audiovisual and Integrated Experience Association. I'm joined on stage today by Alex Sanfilippo. He's with Kraftwerk Living Technologies. And next to him is Chris Lavelle. He's AVIXA Senior Director of Development for the European market. I brought him up here because I'm hoping we'll make a little news today on the topic that we want to discuss, which is certification, ostensibly, but about professional standards. And Kraftwerk last fall won AV Magazine's AV Awards, the award for outstanding contribution to integrated experiences. And congratulations on that.
Thank you.
We're happy for that. Really quickly. That's us. So what I want to do today is I want to let Alex talk a little bit about what Kraftwerk is doing. I have some questions for him. We'll open it up if we need to. But again, I assume we're all aware here that in this industry there is a certification program that AVIXA runs. It's one of the ways that we help ensure worldwide that professionals in our industry are trained and educated up to standards. Companies like Kraftwerk clearly believe in the professionalism of their staffs for reasons that we'll explore today. But for now, I just want to turn it over to Alex and introduce us first to Kraftwerk a little bit.
Hi, Brad. Thank you. Chris? Thanks for this opportunity. Obviously, Kraftwerk is a key player in audiovisual system integration with a key focus on themed entertainment, industry and science, museums and exhibitions. We're an international company. We focus on all regions around the world with an emphasis on providing the customer an overall experience as opposed to specific products. We want the customer to basically have a final product from us. So that's one of Kraftwerk's key strengths, and that's what makes us a leader in the industry today.
That's great. And we've got some great examples of your work here that we'll just we'll go through. But
yes.
I wanted to ask you, you've got a long history with AVIXA. How did Kraftwerk's relationship with our organization begin?
Good question. I believe it goes back to 2002 already, where Kraftwerk were branching out into the international marketplace, and we're trying to identify how to get this international market reach. And that brought us to the US, to Infocom at that stage. And we immediately realized what value that show had in terms of exposing us to standards and the efforts that were being made to provide a platform for companies and integrators to work towards. So at that time already, I believe that we saw that it would help us serve our client base by becoming a member and adopting the standards and certification. 2002, the company was obviously a lot smaller, but with ambitions nonetheless. And founder and technical director Christian Hofer joined Infocom in his personal capacity. And within a few years, the entire company was vested. This was around 2006, I think. So, we've almost had 2 decades of affiliation with Infocom and AVIXA. So, very, very important for us.
And we appreciate it. So the title of this talk was Success with CTS. CTS, I shouldn't be throwing letters out there without explaining them further. The CTS is the Certified Technology Specialist. It is the certification program that AVIXA runs. But it is about professional development, and it's about keeping your staff in a position to create the experiences that you want for them. How important has professional development been to Kraftwerk certification, getting the staff up to a certain level of certification?
Well, I think firstly, having a proficient or highly proficient team at Kraftwerk is one of the cornerstones that what makes Kraftwerk the company it is today. So whether it's having our staff certified in specific brands or disciplines, audio engineering, or CTS certification is extremely important to us. So having a platform that is focused on our core competencies, I think is something that we take full advantage of. It makes us better as a company. Of course, it empowers our staff. And in the end, I think it makes for a much happier client because they get a better all-round professional experience.
That's great. I did want to ask further, how do you encourage your employees, and which employees do you identify as wanting to get them to a new level or wanting to get them certified, whether it's an AVIXA certification or you mentioned companies have product certifications. Sure. How do you identify and how do you encourage them to do that?
So at Kraftwerk, we have an ethos, obviously, that encourages certification. And we do that as a way to foster an environment of collective understanding. And basically, we want everybody to speak the same language. And that's not English, German, Russian, Spanish, Hungarian. We're that diverse at Kraftwerk. It's about fostering this understanding of speaking AV. So we want everybody to speak AV. And a classic example is that obviously out of system planning or system architecture, which are sort of the obvious choices to put people through CTS, we also encourage even our CAD engineers, as an example, guys that are predominantly doing mechanical design work, to also get certified.
No.
So what this does is it creates an environment of collective understanding within the team. So that's one of the ways we try and do it. So it brings a team, even with diverse disciplines or roles in the company, they all start feeling sort of collective. Not that hard to convince a group once you provide that sort of environment where people want to be part of this understanding. So it hasn't been too difficult from that perspective. What's been much harder, and I think this is the reality for most companies, has been time. When you're very, very busy, you have a large team. We all know that delivering projects is, of course, the priority, and trying to strike that balance between, giving people enough time to prepare and write exams and still be productive is the biggest challenge. But I think we have an effective system. I think in the last 18 months, we've put through over 12 people through CTS with very little rewrite. So I think we have an effective approach on how to handle that.
That's great.
Yeah.
And CTS, as you mentioned, is this common baseline of knowledge, speaking AV, if you will. There are advanced certifications that, I don't want to make this a AVIXA commercial, but there are advanced certifications. You have advanced certifications. CTSD for designers, CTSI for installation.
Correct.
And how do you identify those folks and who needs to move on to a new level?
Yeah, so obviously the baseline at the moment is to try and get everybody onto CTS.
Sure.
Okay, baseline. And then, we have two very distinct groups, I would say. We have our designers that are predominantly doing all the planning, and the goal there is, of course, to get everybody onto CTSD in a manner that, we can manage it from a time perspective, so we can't roll out the entire team in one go. But that comes down to perhaps some experience within the market or within their role. So the more senior guys, of course, would be earmarked first. And then we have, of course, on the implementation side, we have a large team from senior site managers to, of course, technicians. And the goal is, at least phase one would be to get site management up to CTSR standards across the board and slowly roll that out.
That's great.
Yeah.
And tell me about your customers. What does it mean to customers for them to come to Kraftwerk for their highly professionalized staff, certified staff? Is it something you go to market with and say, this is what this means, and this is the type of expertise and dedication to your project that you can expect from us?
Absolutely. I think what's interesting about that question is that the world, I think, is a much smaller place in terms of product reach. In the past, or rather manufacturers now, I think, enjoy a much wider distribution network. And this means that their products are far more accessible to the end user than they were perhaps a decade ago, 2 decades ago. And in a way, the integrator has somehow lost some of that advantage, because what used to happen is the integrator had advantage by maybe having access to a product and then bring it into that market, and that differentiated themselves. So where I'm going with this is that we have to identify a particular advantage over our competitors, and it's no longer as easy to do that with product anymore. So for us, we've taken a different approach. The client is also way more educated. They know what they want. They have they experience. They've seen a lot more. So they put a lot of demand on us for that. So one of our key differentiators, amongst others, is quality. And this leads into your question, because for us, quality is about the quality of communication, project management, design, implementation that the client receives. And that can only happen when you have a team that is all working together. So the client buys an experience. For us, it's about initial contact through to handover, after-sales support, and hopefully into the next project with them. And that comes into the fact that if you have a team that is CTS certified in a market that recognizes it, we leverage that and say, yes, we have a proficient team. They stick to these standards as a process, and that's very, very important. And it does make a difference for us as a company and our clients, I believe.
That's great. And it pays off. Kraftwerk is a multiple award winner. Not just the AV Magazine AV Award that I alluded to, but other awards. I don't want to, draw more attention to our award, but you've won awards from a lot of different third parties, people who actually look at this non-biased and say you do exceptional work, and that has to, feel good. It has to be like the payoff of this type of professionalism. Absolutely.
Obviously we received the Outstanding Contribution to the Integrated Experience Award last year. And that was firstly an honor to receive that award, and what made it all the more special, specifically having received it last year, was also in our anniversary year, 25 years in the AV industry, which is a milestone on its own. And of course it's very humbling receiving an award by your peers that recognize the work you do. So for us, the investment in terms of making sure we have a team that is proficient, and that just adds to the quality of our product. So.
And this industry is obviously changing a lot. You see it on the show floor here at ISE. Technologies coming together, audiovisual technologies, information technologies, IP, all of this is coming together. Professionalism, certifications, education have to continuously evolve and change, and we obviously at AVIXA recognize that, and we pay attention to that in our certification and training programs. But for instance, AVIT, how do you have a staff that you've taught them the language of AV, correct? We talked about that earlier.
Yep.
How do you evolve that into, what do you expect them to learn now in a converging world of AVIT? Because I'm sure the projects you deliver combine everything.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we can all say that we've been discussing this convergence for a long, long time. For us, it's played quite a significant role in our core competency for quite some time. Less so in corporate AV, although we do serve that market, but I'd like to focus specifically around automation and show control that we implement within themed entertainment. And we've had the luxury of, or we've been fortunate rather, let me say that, to have been involved in some groundbreaking projects. And I think, in fact, a testament to this convergence and what it can mean. On Tuesday, we were honored with the award of winning visitor attraction at the Innovate Awards for National Geographic.
Congratulations! I think we've got.
Keep going. I think
we'll get to that.
Yeah. So and that's that particular
different award.
Yeah, different award. That particular project is an absolute showcase to this integration. Actually, here we go. That's
here we
it.
go.
Yeah.
So go back one too.
Yeah. So that it's great actually that I can use that as an example. So one of our advantages, or one of our strengths, is that we can take complex systems and push the boundaries of integration on them. And that, of course, comes with understanding how everything gets put together. And Kraftwerk is we focus on is to take these complex systems make them relatively easy to use for the end user and the operations or maintenance team, but still provide very high level automation, reporting, and these sort of things. So literally with hundreds of network enabled devices in an attraction like this, you can imagine that there's a single key switch that powers up the entire attraction. It has to be frame accurate in certain situations, 100% reliability, 365 days a year. This puts a big demand on the integrator to come up with solid designs. And obviously to do that, we need networking IT. So from an AV and IT convergence, we've been doing this a long time, devout supporters and implementers of this, and therefore we do feel that it's extremely important to provide training. It's a tough question because at the moment I would say our goal is to have a team that is proficient in the basics, so potentially CompTIA certification. Then we know that you could always engage with a manufacturer, Cisco as an example, CCNA, but they all they become very product specific, but they still provide a good underpinning. Again, going back to a complicated project like that, and looking with AV in mind, I think it's fair to say that it's very difficult to identify, what protocol or standard is the de facto standard. Which one has this manufacturer put an emphasis over the other one? So we have to support everything. We have to be pretty much multidisciplinary. The client might have a preference. So in a large design, you might have AVB, you might have Dante, ArtNet, PosiStageNet, EtherCAT, AV over IP, as you mentioned, all existing on one network, and that gets very complicated. So, I know I'm going on about this, but what I'm trying to illustrate is that I don't think it's that easy to go focus on this, and that. I think what needs to happen, potentially, is that there has to be a collective group or understanding that says, how do we make all of this work and fit and provide a basis for standards around that, or education on what best practices are. So that's what we would like to see is more of a collective taking specific standards and putting them all in one pot and go, right, how do we make this all work? I think that's quite important for us.
That's great. Well, congratulations on all the staff at Kraftwerk that has reached those levels of certification. It's a growing group in Europe, Chris. I think from our point of view, certification in Europe continues to grow. I believe we've got 1,000 plus CTS certified professionals. Is that the number we're?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Brad. The CTS has been very strong. It's been traditionally very strong in the UK and Ireland because of the language advantage of being in English. But we've also had these great companies like Kraftwerk that take it upon themselves to certify and push forward anyway, which is great. They've done a fantastic job doing that. There are a few flag flyers on the continent as well that continue to do that. But certainly we're very excited about the launch of CTS in German, which is going to be taking place very soon, starting with an online rollout and then having classroom courses. But also we have a lot of traction taking place in Iberia. We've run 2 CTS prep classes in the last 2 months. So that's really popular in Spain, certainly, as we move towards a show taking place there in a couple of years' time. So yeah, with the support of the DACH community, they've been really, really helpful in trying to get the CTS in German correct. It's been many review processes, so even when it comes back from the translators, we need the industry to verify that the information is correctly said and communicates in AV talk, so to speak. And that's something that's very, very important. And that was fed back to us a few years ago, in terms of if you're going to do this, we absolutely have to have people that are verified from our industry. So a big thank you to those that have partaken in that process. It's quite a lengthy and in-depth process. When you actually start to break down these courses, it's thousands and 10,000s of words, and it's images and videos. There's so much content. You actually have to really make sure that it's got the I's dotted correctly and the T's crossed, so to speak.
That's great.
The umlauts.
And umlauts, yeah.
And I do want to get this right because this is significant information. AVIXA being a United States-based organization and having the CTS originate there, there are governing bodies around the world that will look for certifications to recognize them as legitimate in their markets. Ours has always been certified under American National Standards Institute's aegis, if you will. But we recently, the CTS was recognized by a global body, and I want to get it right because ANSI was accepted as a signatory in the International Accreditation Forum Multilateral Recognition Arrangement. It basically means that CTS has more global weight if you go into a market and they want to know how professional your staff is. This is some extra certification. Can you talk to that?
Yeah, so that basically means it's recognized by many countries around the world who sign up to the scheme. So essentially, we're going to get much more traction through the recognition of the CTS program. You're quite correct in the sense that ANSI is the American Standards National Institute. So we have to go through ANSI because our head office is based in Fairfax, Virginia. But through this body now, it's been recognized globally, and so our certification, the body that certifies our certification, that has been recognized globally by very, I think they list about 40, countries.
Yeah, about 40 countries.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yep. That's important for us.
It is important for you. How many countries do you work in now?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah, I think we pretty much touch every corner of the globe. I think we've done work east, west, everywhere.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I appreciate your time this
Thank
morning,
you.
Alex. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll be around for a few minutes afterwards if you'd like to talk about certification programs and anything else that AVIXA has to offer. Have a great rest of the show, and enjoy the rest of Amsterdam, too.
Thanks.